What's been the hardest part about trying to get yourself back?
I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for you. I came to this window and I looked out and the water was here.
And thank you very much for being with us on this Monday edition of Good Morning San Antonio. As we saw there, we're continuing our coverage of the Hill Country floods. Hard to believe, Jeff, 1 month later.
Exactly a month later. And again, we got team coverage throughout GMSA. But before we get to Ernie and Devin, who is out in the field right now, we're going to get right over to meteorologist Justin Horn, kind of get us in place and check for what our day is looking like today in the weather department.
Well, guys, we are going to watch for a few storms this afternoon. It's a possibility, and here's why. Let me show you the setup. We've got our high pressure off to the west, and there are some storms this morning up across parts of North Texas. Now, it's not to say these are the storms that will affect us, because I don't think they will be, but it definitely shows there's some energy up here. And the way the flow is, that energy should work its way into the San Antonio area by this afternoon. So we have put in some storm chances there for that reason. The timing, I would say lunchtime through sunset, and I misspelled sunset, so forgive me here, but that's kind of the timing that we're thinking of. Strong storm, can't rule it out actually. In this kind of flow, you can often get a strong storm or two. Gusty winds would be the main threat, but maybe some hail too, something we'll watch. With that said, most of us are going to stay dry. The coverage will be sparse, but we just want to make sure everyone's aware that storms are possible. The forecast calls for temperatures to make their way up into the 90s by noontime, 93. We start to add in rain chances at that point. And again, 20% chance throughout the afternoon. Now, we are forecasting the state just below the triple-digit mark. If we were to get there today, it would be the 7th day in a row at triple with at 100 or above. And we've got several more days this week to hit some triple digits, so we'll talk about that too. But we'll kind of zero in on that rain chance. We'll show you the futurecast coming up here in just a few minutes, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Justin. Well, as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a month since the deadly floods in the Hill Country, and today we're looking at what progress has been made so far in the past 30 days or so.
Our team coverage continuing on this Monday morning with our Ernie Zuniga. He is in Kerrville. You see him right here to my right. And again, Ernie is at the spot where a lot of this started about a month ago. On this morning a month ago, Ernie, how are things looking out there this morning?
Guys, good morning. You know, it is a little surreal because we are coming out. We decided to start at the same location where we were essentially a month ago. It was July 7th when we first got here on that Monday after the 4th of July flooding. This is Waterfront Drive, and I know it's difficult to see right now because it's still so dark, but the Guadalupe River is behind me, a couple of 100 yards away, and there are piles of debris, a lot of tree limbs and everything. And what we've noticed since we've come here, if you were with us a month ago and you remember I was doing some live reports from a concrete slab foundation where a mobile home used to stand. Behind me, this is the first time I am seeing this, but you may remember the Romero family. Our Myra Arthur had interviewed, who I believe he's 19 years old now, Leo Romero, who lost his father, his stepmother, and his 1-year-old brother, who were all swept away at what used to be their home that stood right here. And I'll get out of the way so you can see what has developed here, this beautiful memorial, which, as I'm finding out, again, we just arrived here a few minutes ago. This is part memorial, obviously a nod to the young boy who was lost here and the couple, the father and the stepmother. But to the right of that, if you look, this was the Walden house. You might recall the family, the couple that was swept away and clung to a crepe myrtle in the Guadalupe River and were ultimately saved. And you might remember weeks ago, there was a large chunk of their house that was missing on the back side of the house. Well, it has since been demolished, and what's left of that house you might be able to see is piled up beyond the foundation there right now. In the middle of all of that, there are cart tables set up with donations. There are neatly lined up bottles of hydrogen peroxide and hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes and bottled water and those kinds of things. There's a shelving with dozens of pairs of shoes on them right now. These are donations. Still unclear whether these are for people to come up here and pick up. But again, I'm just seeing a lot of this for the first time here in the last few minutes. But very clearly, these are organized donations that have been set up for people. It is eerily quiet here right now. There are some homes in the neighborhood that do have lights on, but there's no indication that anybody's here. A month ago, you recall, most of the people that had been here that were not lost in the flood had evacuated and were long gone by the time we were here. So we're just arriving here, but essentially to set up what's going to happen today, the plan is to talk to small business owners who have received funding to try to get back on their feet. We're going to try to connect with Mr. Wayne Donaghy, who was the first person in line at the FEMA Resource Center, if you were with us a month ago, and see how he is doing. Our Sarah Acosta did an amazing profile on him and what was left of his house as he was living right on the river. So we've got a day's full of coverage here. Myself and other KSAT colleagues will be here throughout the day to bring you the very latest as we mark 1 month since this terrible tragedy. So for now, that is the scene from the banks of the Guadalupe River here in Kerrville. We'll send it back to you guys in San Antonio.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ernie. Also happening today, we have 2 meetings that we're following about the ongoing concerns about flood prevention and response in the Hill Country.
Our very own Patty Santos is live here this morning with a preview. Good morning, Patty.
Hey there, good morning, guys. So here's what we know. Later today, the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country will outline its long-term recovery strategy 1 month after catastrophic flooding devastated that area. The foundation is going to hold a virtual press conference at 11:30. Now, we're going to hear more about the Kerr County Flood Relief Initiative and what victims will have priorities. We're also going to hear which local nonprofits aiding flood survivors have already been helped, and they're asking more victims to complete and fill out the paperwork to get those resources. The Kerr County Flood Relief Initiative claims that it's going to guide future investments in the community and ensure resources are directed with transparency, efficiency, and local input. Meanwhile, the Kerr County Commissioner's Court is also set to once again discuss property tax rates at its meeting this morning. Kerr County Tax Assessor Collector has been asked to present the maximum tax increase allowed without voter approval. That meeting is set for 9 a.m. Stay with KSAT.com and KSAT, of course, TV to find out what happens in that meeting. RJ.
All right, thank you very much for that, Patty, as we take a look here at your traffic authority. And again, do want to also update our folks on everything that's been going on in the Texas Hill Country as well. So if you may remember, obviously Highway 39, FM 1340 took the brunt of the damage here in terms of our highway closures. And those are still underway. Repairs there still underway, especially along many of the low water crossings. Highway 39, we had that Camp La Junta, which was right here. And then we also obviously had Camp Mystic, which is much further down 39 there. FM 1340, same situation. Now, these have been closed off to the general public for several weeks. Now, first responders and residents still have access to those roadways, but obviously still a long ways to go there. Now, let's update you on the situation right here, closer to the Kerrville area. And this is another spot where, as we saw from Ernie's live shot there, had a lot of damage here. Repairs are underway on several other state roadways, including FM 1350. That's actually in the Center Point area. State Highway Loop 98. That's Thompson Road. That one kind of stretches along the Guadalupe River right there. And also FM 394, which is actually the Limo Street Bridge. So we've done several stories along the Limo Street Bridge. That's a big part of the Kerrville area that saw some pretty significant damage. Now, again, TxDOT's current focus is to restore the roadways and infrastructure to prevent, obviously, conditions from going from bad already to worse. But again, we will continue to update you on everything that's going on in terms of our repair and recovery in the Hill Country. Just wanted to give folks an update on everything going on there on TxDOT's end. Jeff, back to you.
All right, thank you, RJ. Well, this morning we got Texas Democrats have made a dramatic move, leaving the state and heading to Illinois. So they're hoping that this will block a vote on new congressional maps pushed by Republicans and backed by President Donald Trump. The redrawn districts could help the GOP gain more state house seats in the 2026 elections. But by walking out, Democrats are denying the legislature the quorum needed to vote. It's a high-stakes strategy with potential legal and financial consequences. And again, this is not the first time lawmakers have used this tactic to stall redistricting efforts. Democratic state reps Trey Martinez-Fisher, Ray Lopez, and Diego Bernal, who all represent San Antonio, are among the legislators in Chicago.
We're doing mid-decade redistricting because they know that they're probably going to lose a lot of seats in 2026. And President Trump doesn't want to lose the Republican advantage he has in Congress. So he's going to rig the game at halftime in order to pick up seats. And this is the guy who has betrayed the middle class. He's the guy who's snatching our neighbors off the street.
Yes.
Okay, so Governor Greg Abbott did respond. He sent a statement in response to the Democrats leaving, or saying that in part, real Texans do not run from a fight. But that's exactly what most of the Texas House Democrats just did. Rather than doing their job and voting on urgent legislation affecting the lives of all Texans, this truancy ends now. The derelict Democrat House members must return to Texas and be in attendance when the House reconvenes at 3 p.m. on Monday, August 4th, 2025, which is today. For any member who fails to do so, I will invoke the Texas Attorney General opinion number KP 0382 to remove the missing Democrats from membership in the Texas House.
Right outside with live cam, it is almost 5:11, 79 degrees. Here's what we're watching this afternoon. This is the newest model data coming in, and it does show some storms flaring up later today, especially east of I-35. We'll talk about this chance and how hot it may get later today coming up.
All right, y'all. Are you guys ready for some football? Here we go. Midnight was the first time that Texas high schools could officially begin practice for the upcoming season, and we were out there practicing with them early this morning. We're going to take a look at the schools that literally started at midnight, coming up in just a little bit. 514, welcome back. Let's get to some local stories here. A San Antonio man, already a convicted killer, has now been found guilty on 20 counts of possessing child sexual abuse material. Now, court records identify him as 80-year-old Ramsey Joshua Clark. Investigators say that he had the illegal images and videos back in July of 2022 and was arrested 2 months later. Records also show that Clark illegally changed his name in 2019. He was previously known as Leonard Freeman and was convicted of murder back in 1983. His latest trial wrapped up this past week, and sentencing is now set for October.
Let's get to our morning headlines. We got a top economists saying that the U.S. might be teetering on the edge of a recession, with consumer spending stalling and job growth slowing. July's unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%, and only 73,000 jobs were added. The government also revised May and June numbers, showing over 250,000 fewer jobs than first reported. Now, President Donald Trump responded by firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, claiming that the data was manipulated. But all of this comes as the new tariffs are set to hit this week, raising prices on everything from coffee to clothing. Starting in the fall, we got 10 Best Buys in Florida and Texas will have 1,000 square foot IKEA showrooms. The shop in shops will feature kitchen and laundry room settings. IKEA workers will help customers design kitchen and laundry spaces, and Best Buy workers will help them pick out those appliances. The partnership is the first time IKEA has sold inside another retailer in the U.S. An IKEA executive said that it aims to make it easier to integrate Best Buy appliances into IKEA kitchens and laundry areas.
Okay, well, people do love themselves some IKEA. I could say that.
And Best Buy.
Best Buy. Yes. All right, guys, let's give you a look here at the traffic situation. Obviously, we mentioned everything out in the Hill Country, still a lot of work to be done there. But locally here, the I-10 Proban area, traffic is looking pretty good for our folks that are south of downtown. I-10 and West Avenue, no major issues there as well. So again, just kind of dealing with some overnight construction issues. But it looks like for the most part, a lot of this activity has picked up. Let's give you an update here, though, because this is going to be 35 right here, Space Center Drive. Earlier, we had what looked like a couple of construction vehicles in this one particular stretch of 35, but it looks like they've actually cleared out over the past 5 to 10 minutes or so. 1604 over here by Stone Oak Parkway closed overnight, but that has since been reopened, as you could see right there from that TransGuide traffic camera. All right, let's go to Justin Horn with a check of today's forecast and what we're looking for the rest of this week. Justin?
Thank you, sir. I'm going to take you up to Dallas-Fort Worth. That's where we've got some storms going on right now. These are, strong storms, nothing severe. There was a severe storm earlier, but this is the energy that I'm watching. That based on how things are set up here, we have our ridge high pressure, which is over the Four Corners, but the flow is such that this energy that we see up around Dallas will be kind of steered in our direction a little bit later this afternoon. So let's say those exact storms are the ones that will be affecting us. But I do think these are going to drop south and could potentially affect our eastern counties. Now, this is around 12:45 or so this afternoon shows some storms starting to potentially affect Austin, College Station, Houston. And then the question will be, can we get some of this to work towards San Antonio? Now, the latest models have most everything I-35 and points east, and I think that probably makes sense. But even here in San Antonio, there is a chance we could see some storms flare up, maybe right around 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, depending on how this plays out. If we do see some storms, I think there could be some strong ones involved here, just based on the flow and what we know about this kind of flow, that oftentimes these storms can be strong in the sense that we could get some gusty winds, maybe a little bit of hail. Something we'll watch for you. The odds of you seeing a storm are generally pretty low. We're going to call for a 20% chance of rain. So noontime 93, 20% chance of rain through the afternoon. And if we can get some storms, that should help us stay below that 100-degree mark. We shall see. We've put together quite a streak here. 9 days so far this year, but if we were to hit 100, this would be our 6th day in a row. Starting July 30th, we've been at 100 every day, including yesterday. We briefly did hit 100, and we'll see if we get there today. But if we don't, I have a feeling we're certainly going to get there at some point this week. We have triple digits in the forecast Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it continues. So today's kind of our one day where I think we have rain in the forecast. Temperatures do start to come down a little bit, by the way, as we get into the weekend and next week, hopefully. But just know that this first week here in August is going to be quite toasty.
We see
Quite
all
toasty.
those hundreds on there. I mean, hey, we're right in this time, and it's just it makes sense because again, when school starts, it would not be a normal school year if we did not see that.
Well, on average, this is our hottest time of the year, so it stands to
Yeah.
reason.
And
Also, go ahead.
I felt this weekend was the first time this summer where I was like, oh, it is like really hot.
Oh, yeah.
When you just step outside, you can just like feel it in the air.
The humidity, too.
Yeah.
God tell you. All right, our question this morning has to do with the Coast Guard. Why, you ask? Well, because today is National Coast Guard Day, because it was established on this day in 1790. But by whom?
Oh, Lord.
Was it George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, or Zachary Taylor? Of course, a wonderful branch of our military.
Oh, there we go. We got
Just
one.
got to vote for Alexander Hamilton.
Okay, does the Mayflower have anything to do
The
with it?
Mayflower, no.
Well, I'm just saying because I experienced, Coast Guard and Mayflower. Maybe that's
No, there's no connection there, but I like where your mind's at.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, vote. KSAT.com/poll.
all right. Thank you, Justin. 5:20 right now. 79 degrees outside.
Nintendo just raised prices on some Switch models, but not all of them. Plus, Apple's new move to take on ChatGPT. What this means for your tech coming up in today's Tech Bites.
In today's Tech Bites, Nintendo is raising prices. The cost of the original Switch console jumped $40 over the weekend, up to $340. The company isn't changing the price of the recently released Switch 2, but says it may in the future. Apple is reportedly in the early stages of developing a search experience similar to ChatGPT, aimed at answering general knowledge questions. Bloomberg says Apple is also exploring a standalone app for the feature. New job listings appear to be in line with the project. And finally, the man known as the godfather of AI says he thinks the technology may eventually invent its own language that humans can't understand. Jeffrey Hinton warned artificial intelligence has already shown it can think terrible thoughts. He says a new language wouldn't be a surprise. Will their new language have a word that uses all the vowels, including Y? Unquestionably. Those are your Tech Bites.
There he is. Andrew Dimbert. Okay. Today is August 4th. This, of course, is the day that many of our local high school football teams have been waiting for.
Yeah, most programs can officially begin practicing today to prepare for the 2025 season. And some teams even hit the gridiron right at midnight. Let's send it over to KSAT 12 Sports reporter Mary Rominger.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's just after midnight, and we are here in Lytle for the Lytle football team's midnight practice. This is seriously one of the best traditions in high school football, and honestly, maybe even sports. When teams get the green light that they can begin practicing for the upcoming season, Lytle is one of those teams that's wasting no time. As soon as the clock struck midnight, they were out here on the practice field, and this community does it right. Hundreds of fans in the stands to see their team practice.
It's football season. You always have the energy, right? First practice, the adrenaline, ready to play, get out there and compete.
It's actually pretty good to see, we still have people out here supporting at midnight, so I can't wait till what Friday nights are going to be like.
All right, the energy in Lytle was contagious, but now we are at Holy Cross to see how the 2024 TAPS Division III state runners-up do midnight practice.
I was really excited. It's my senior year. I was excited to see my guys and be ready to get back to work. The music, the people, everything, it was just so good.
To be perfectly honest with you, I think all of us would probably be rather laying in bed right now. But truthfully, I love the intensity it brings. I love the excitement it brings.
Now it's 2:30 right now, and you wouldn't know it with the way that these guys are practicing. This has been a ton of fun. Now, sports photographer Mark Mendez and I have 2 more stops for high school football practices in the morning, but for now, we'll send it back to you guys in this studio.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Cannot believe that football season is obviously here. And shout out to Holy Cross, the Knights. And we got Lytle out there too. Good stuff.
Let's go. 5:26 right now. 79 degrees outside.
I'm Ernie Zuniga live in Kerrville this morning on the banks of the Guadalupe River, where 1 month later there are clear signs that progress has been made and we're still remembering those that were lost. But there are also some very raw reminders that so much work still needs to be done here. We'll have a live report coming up in just a few minutes.
Welcome back, and thank you again for joining us on Good Morning San Antonio, this Monday edition, where we are continuing to cover everything going on in the Hill Country a month after devastating flooding.
This morning, we got team coverage across the board, including our very own Ernie Zuniga, who is live right now in Kerrville, standing in front of memorials and kind of like the aftermath of what's been taking place over there as the cleanup efforts continue. Ernie, what can you tell us this morning?
Guys, I got to tell you, it's been nearly a month since photojournalist Alex Gomez and I were standing on this very spot, and it's all just coming back to us here, the emotions and everything, and you're reminded about what happened here. We were all in the air together a month ago today at this time, when all of the flooding was happening, and the Guadalupe River, again, is just a stone's throw behind me here. But if you're just joining us, we are on Waterfront Drive here in Kerrville, and a memorial has been set up for the 3 members of the Romero family that were lost, a father, a stepmother, and a 1-year-old boy. Leo Romero Jr., the 19-year-old, is the lone survivor, and you may remember his story. Myra Arthur interviewed him when he was in the hospital in the hours and days after the flooding. And I got to tell you, one thing I did not expect to see, this car. We were here a month ago and very vividly and clearly remember this car being here. I don't remember the windshield being caved in quite like that, but for whatever reason, it is still here, and we are reminded with all of the debris and everything as if it were virtually untouched from the day it was here for the flooding and everything. The Walden house, as I mentioned earlier, has since been demolished. That couple made national headlines just for their story about having to cling again to that crepe myrtle as they were trying to float down the Guadalupe River. But I mentioned earlier, this is part memorial, this is part donation station, a collection station, if you will. Behind me, there are cart tables set up very neatly in rows, bottles of donations that have come in, and you see the shelves of shoes that are here, all different sizes, boys, girls, adults. And beyond that, there are bottles of disinfectant and cleaners and hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes. And I was struck by this right here. It's a bowl of photos that are caked in mud and dirt. A lot of these are being collected, looks like a Christmas ornament and things like that. Priceless mementos that have been collected or found along the river or here in this area that presumably are being collected and hopefully will be returned to the rightful owners at the appropriate time. But just to give you a sense of what's happening, so many different things that are happening here at the same time. It is eerily quiet right now. Again, there is no indication that anybody who, even the houses that were spared here, is still here. Many people relocated or are staying with relatives as the cleanup and the recovery and the repair continues. But we're just getting started here. To give you a sense of what the plan is for us here today, we are planning to connect with some of the flood survivors who we touched base with a month ago to get a sense of how they're feeling now, what they're going through. Has FEMA come in to help them? What kind of assistance have they received? And then later on this morning in GMSA Plus, my plan is to sit down with 3 or 4 small business owners. You may recall about a month ago, Lift Fund, which is a huge lender for small businesses and nonprofits based out of San Antonio, was here in Kerrville to announce they had mobilized $1 million worth of funding for small businesses here. And a lot of that money has already been dispersed and distributed. So the idea this morning is to catch up with some of those small business owners to see how much they've been able to get, how it's impacted them and their ability to get back on their feet and get back to the very important work they have here in the Hill Country. So we're just getting started here, kind of getting the scene, waiting for the sun to come up. Again, there are still piles of tree limbs and debris behind us. It's difficult to see right now in the darkness, but we'll have coverage with myself and a number of our KSAT colleagues throughout the day. And in the next hour, we'll talk to Devin as well in Ingram and get you caught up on what's happening over there. But for now, that is the scene here along the banks of the Guadalupe River in Kerrville. I'm Ernie Zuniga, KSAT 12 News.
All right, so since the floods took the lives of more than 100 people in the Hill Country, we got search, rescue, and recovery efforts have been very vital.
Patty Santos joining us once again to show us what the people there are demanding, including preventative solutions and better access to resources after a disaster. Good morning, Patty.
Hey there, good morning. As you can imagine, moving forward after a tragedy like the 4th of July floods has been incredibly difficult for so many families. Many families and homeowners affected by the floods spoke at the legislative hearing in Kerrville in late July. They say they're frustrated with the current disaster policies and poor communication. Some are urging state and federal governments to step in and buy land in flood zones to protect residents, tourists, first responders, campers, and wildlife.
They had no way of communicating anything and no one was in charge, and I waited there for over 12 hours for news and literally no one could tell you anything.
If you want to protect the river, we'll make that public land, make it parkland or a preserve so that the people won't have their RVs 12 feet from the river.
Yeah, well, between families, homeowners, and volunteers, the hope is for preventative measures to be put in place so in the future, the aftermath is more manageable. State lawmakers have filed several bills to shore up the safety of youth camps in the wake of the devastating Hill Country floods. So far, 9 bills have been proposed that would address everything from emergency plans and campers, disaster drills, to better communication systems and life jackets inside every cabin. Justin.
Patty, thank you so much. Good information there. Okay, let's look at today's forecast. We're expecting temperatures to be in the upper 70s this morning. Humid, no rain to start, so your morning commute will be fine in that sense. But we are going to watch some rain chances to start pop up by midday and probably into the afternoon as well. We're going to call for just a 20% chance here in San Antonio. But if we do see a storm, it's worth noting that it could be on the strong side. Isolated at best today, and temperatures should stay just below 100 degrees. That's if we get some storms. If not, we may hit that triple-digit mark again. We've got storms up around Dallas this morning. As we fast forward here through about 1 o'clock, we'll see some storms start to push in around Austin, maybe College Station, Houston, and then it's late afternoon that we could see some of this effect. Mainly our eastern counties, but even here in San Antonio, this is around 5 o'clock, shows a couple storms flaring up. And again, in this kind of flow, strong storms are always a possibility. Gusty winds and hail would be your main threats here, and that's something we will certainly watch. Hey, meantime, out in the Atlantic, things starting to pick up. We've got Dexter, a tropical storm. Another area just off the coast that shows some promise, in another area here with a 50% chance of development. So the tropics getting active. We'll talk more about this and where these systems could be headed coming up in just a few minutes. But if you're headed out the door, let's get you set for your morning commute. RJ, what you got?
All right, Justin, this just popped up on our TransGuide traffic camera out here on the west side of town. Looks like 410. Not sure if this is south or north yet. Again, this just showed up on our rotating shots here outside with TransGuide, but it looks like we do have a couple of emergency officials on both shoulders of this one stretch of highway. I think this is going to be 410 going south at Culebra. Again, this is going to be south of Ingram Road. So again, I'll double check with our friends at TransGuide just to get a little bit more information on what exactly is going on there. Another reminder, 35 right here, seeing some construction. The lower levels of 35 northbound right here, Alamo Street, are still closed closed. The upper levels are still open, but again, it's an ongoing situation there with the construction. It looks like they have cleared out some situation here. This is going to be 35 right there at 410 over by Space Center. So we will keep an eye on that situation. Also keeping an eye on the situation on the west side. Again, 410 at Culebra Road.
It is now 5:37 right now, 79 degrees outside, and we're talking about student loans, interest coming back. For millions on the SAVE plan, we got why people who have student loans could now owe thousands more and what it means for their finances next.
All right, it is 5:41. Let's go outside with live cam. We've got a few clouds here in San Antonio right now, and nothing to affect your Monday morning commute. But as we look at water vapor imagery, we can see there's high pressure off to the west, and it's directing some storms perhaps in our direction this afternoon. We'll show you that futurecast coming up.
All right, coming up on 5:44 on your Monday morning, and unfortunately we have a couple of different major traffic incidents here, some hot spots that we're seeing across the city of San Antonio. Let's give you a look here. This is going to be 90 westbound right here at Zarzamora. This is being reported as a rollover crash right now that is blocking at least 3 to 4 of our main lanes at 90 west at Zarzamora. Again, that's going to be right before you get to the General Hudnall and the Port San Antonio exit for all of our folks that are headed on 90 right now. Let's take you to the maps and show you exactly the backup that we're seeing at this moment. That crash being reported before you get to Couples Road. And of course, right there at the General Hudnall exit, backing things up to Frio City and other parts of Highway 90 as well. So this is a pretty significant crash. Again, it's being reported that we have at least 3 to 4 main lanes closed at this moment. And again, being reported as a rollover crash on the westbound lanes of Highway 90 right there. The other incident that we talked about right before we took a short break a little while or so ago is going to be right here at 410 in Culebra. Now, I checked in with TransGuide and they said that this is actually going to be reports of debris on the road. It looks like we still have one TxDOT official here. Not sure if that's TxDOT or a SAPD officer, but this is going to be on the westbound lanes of 410 right here at Culebra. So a little bit past Ingram Road, right before you get to Culebra, and you are seeing that this is not really causing too many delays. So again, earlier was being potentially reported as a accident on the westbound lanes of 410 at Culebra, but definitely not the case right now. So something that we will continue to keep an eye on. Again, the major issue is going to be 90 westbound at Zarzamora as we make our way back on the west side of town. Let's go to Justin with a check of the forecast and today's weather. Justin.
RJ, thank you. A rough morning for some folks there as you get off to your Monday morning commute. All right, I want to take you out into the Atlantic, and you'll probably notice this little cluster of storms here. That is Dexter, so that's a newly formed tropical storm. Bit of good news with Dexter is A, it's going to stay weak, but B, it is not forecast to affect any landmass. So this is going to move out harmlessly over the ocean, but it is an indication that things are starting to heat up a little bit in the Atlantic. So we've got Dexter here. That will move to the north as a tropical storm. There is an area off the coast of the Carolinas that the Hurricane Center has flagged. Now, there's nothing there yet, but there could be 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. The other spot, we go way out into the Atlantic here. And this is where we start to see waves coming off of Africa. August is typically the month where we start to see some of this development way out here. And there is a 50% shot that we could see some development a little bit later this week with a wave that currently is moving west. And chances are this is probably going to curve up into the Atlantic. It does not appear, at least yet, that this would have a huge effect on the United States. But I would say let's watch it because things can change. And this is very early on. We don't even have development yet. So yeah, it definitely is worth watching. And then out in the Pacific, we have a couple of areas here too with some development. The Pacific has been very active. It stays that way. All right. Back here at home, sunrise this morning will be at 6:56, sunset at 8:24. So our days are getting shorter here, but 13 hours and 27 minutes of daylight. And we're watching a ridge of high pressure. We can see that very nicely here on the water vapor imagery. You can see the dry air below that. But on the periphery of this thing, we have flow out of the north. And as you know, when we get northerly flow, we have to watch what happens across North Texas because a lot of times these storms can travel great distances and make their way down into our area. There is a complex of showers and storms around Dallas this morning, but the current trajectory takes us east of San Antonio. With that said, the western flank of this, there is some energy there. We could see some development in theory a little bit later today. This is around 3 o'clock. It does show some of these heavier storms working in across our eastern counties at this point, but maybe even a storm or two would be possible around San Antonio around 5 p.m. And as I've been saying, on this kind of flow, you can get some strong storms, gusty winds and hail being the main threats. Not saying there's going to be a ton of severe weather today, but it is something we need to watch, and we'll certainly keep tabs on it. Our forecast today, noontime, we should be into the 90s, 93 at this point, and we begin to add in some of those rain chances, especially I-35 and points east. Should we get some rain, that will help us stay below that triple-digit threshold, but I don't know that that'll be the case the rest of the week because it is looking very hot, very steamy, very humid, very August-like. We take rain chances out other than today. All right, very quickly, our Just Ask Justin question this morning has to do with the Coast Guard. Today is Coast Guard Day, if you didn't know that, celebrating the start of the Coast Guard back in 1790. But my question to you is, who is responsible for establishing the Coast Guard in 1790? There was one person in particular. Was it George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, or Zachary Taylor? Right now, Alexander Hamilton leading the way. You can go to ksat.com/polls, scan the QR code if you want to weigh in. We'll get you that answer here in about 1 hour.
Okay, so while many first responders helped with the rescue and cleanup efforts after the devastating floods in the Hill Country, you got one DPS trooper who found a different way to provide comfort through music.
Rochelle Turner with our sister station, KPRC in Houston, continues our team coverage with how this bagpipe lullaby is touching hearts in the Hill Country. Rochelle, this story is pretty special. Tell us more about it. Good morning.
Good morning. It is certainly a special story. We met Christopher Taylor. He's a state trooper for the Department of Public Safety. He lives in the Hockley area, and he said it was just weighing on his heart to do more, to be down here in the community. He wanted to show it in a way through music. He wanted to let the victims and the families know that this is a way that they can comfort and find a little peace. It's called the Camp Mystic Lullaby, and he played a little bit of the song for us. Take a listen. And Taylor says it started as a private moment. Now, he was practicing his bagpiping along the river. He was volunteering with the Center Point Volunteer Fire Department, just trying to process the emotions he felt. He says he wrote the Camp Mystic Lullaby, which is inspired by a Scottish cradle tune. It's his fourth attempt at writing a piece, and this time he says it felt right. Taylor read the poem out loud and said it just came from his heart. Now, Taylor says that he is going to perform this lullaby at an event next week. He says that he is just so grateful that some of the neighbors around the volunteer fire department were not upset that he was playing his music early in the morning time. They actually came out to him and said they were honored and they loved it. So they reached out to us and we were able to capture his story. He says it's just one of the kindest things he can do for the families who are continuing to grieve. But I do want to set the tone for where we're at right now. This is the Wall of Hope right here behind me. We're going to be here throughout the morning. We've been talking to people who dropped off flowers and teddy bears and just wanted to pay their respects to all of the people who sadly lost their lives back on July 4th. So we're going to have much more coming up throughout the morning. For now, reporting live in Kerrville, I'm Rochelle Turner, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you very much for that, Rochelle, and very powerful to see that deputy there kind of putting that together for those folks, those victims out there at Camp Mystic.
5:53 right now, 79 degrees outside.
Kia has recalled more than 100,000 cars. We're going to tell you more about this coming up in just a All right, 5:56. Let's get to some of your consumer headlines. Auto giant Kia is recalling more than 100,000 cars due to concerns about the rear window trim pieces. According to that recall notice, the left and rear right window trim pieces can come loose and detach. Now, the recall applies to certain Kia K5 cars in the model years 2023 through 2025.
Millions of people with student loans enrolled in the SAVE plan are starting to accrue interest again. Now, the Department of Education halted loan cancellation for income-based repayment following the court ruling that blocked key parts of that plan. Borrowers had been in the no interest forbearance since last summer, but now they face rising balances and potentially thousands more in annual payments.
All my Doritos fans, listen up. They're known for some pretty bold flavors, and now they're back at it. This time they released its golden sriracha flavor. Take a look at that bag there. The company says its golden sriracha took about 2 years to develop. The chip does not contain artificial colors, but it does have artificial flavors to help achieve that sriracha taste.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Are you a sriracha fan?
I don't think I am, but it's 5:57 right now, 79 degrees outside.
Okay, before we get you to break here, do want to update our folks. 90 westbound at Zarza Motor, major crash. We're going to talk about this coming up just a little bit.